I turned 100 years old this spring. When people discover my age, they usually smile and ask the same question. What's your secret? They expect me to talk about vegetables, morning walks, vitamins, or some magical habit I've followed every day. I disappoint them almost every time. Because living a long life has very little to do with discovering one perfect secret. Longevity is built from thousands of tiny decisions. Some of those decisions help your body, others protect your heart. But the most important ones, protect your peace. If I could sit across from my younger self, perhaps the nervous 25-year-old who believed honesty should always be rewarded, I wouldn't tell him how to exercise or what to eat. I'd tell him what not to say. You see, I've buried people I loved. I've survived wars, recessions, layoffs, betrayals, and heartbreak. I've watched fortunes appear and disappear. I've seen families torn apart over things that never should have mattered. And after 100 years, I've learned that many of life's greatest regrets didn't begin with bad luck. They began with unnecessary words. People often believe silence means weakness. I used to believe that too. Now I know something different. Silence is not hiding. Silence is choosing what deserves to be protected. Today I'd like to share 5 lessons that took me nearly an entire century to understand. Every one of them cost me something precious: time, trust, relationships, opportunities. I hope they cost you nothing. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Never tell everyone how much you have. In 1962, I received the largest paycheck of my life. I was 36 years old. My wife and I had spent years counting pennies. Some weeks we had to choose between fixing the car or buying new shoes for our little boy. Then everything changed. My boss promoted me to plant supervisor. The raise felt enormous. I remember driving home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. For the first time, I believed we might finally breathe. That Sunday, my entire family gathered for dinner. My parents, my brothers, my sisters. The children were running around outside while the adults sat around the old oak table. I was proud. Too proud. Someone asked how work was going. Instead of simply saying, "Things are going well," I proudly announced exactly how much I was making. Everyone congratulated me. At least, that's what I thought. Within 2 weeks, strange conversations began. One brother suddenly needed help paying his mortgage. A cousin wanted to borrow money for a business opportunity. My uncle hinted that successful people should take care of family. Then came the guilt. You're doing better than the rest of us. Surely you can afford it. Family helps family. I wasn't against helping people. I had helped before. I would help again. But suddenly, every conversation felt connected to my income. People stopped seeing me. They started seeing my paycheck. When I politely refused a few requests, something changed. The invitations became less frequent. The smiles became colder. Some relatives quietly decided I had become selfish. Nothing about my character had changed. Only one number had. It took me years to understand what happened. Money doesn't change everyone. Sometimes, it simply reveals expectations that were always hiding beneath the surface. Privacy protects relationships. Because when people don't know exactly what you have, they judge you by your character instead of your possessions. Your financial life is not a public performance. It is a private responsibility. Today, many people announce promotions online before they've even celebrated with their families. They post expensive vacations, luxury watches, new cars, bigger houses. They believe they're sharing happiness. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're unknowingly inviting comparison, jealousy, expectation, and resentment. Not everyone who applauds your success is celebrating it. Some are quietly measuring what they believe you now owe them. Protect your finances. Protect your income. Protect your future plans. Not because money is everything, but because peace is worth more than money will ever be. My father once told me something I didn't appreciate until decades later. He said, "A full wallet attracts many hands." I smiled when he said it. Now, I understand exactly what he meant. By the time I was 58, I believed I understood how loyalty worked. I had spent nearly 3 decades with the same company. I arrived before sunrise. I stayed long after everyone else had gone home. I missed birthdays. I postponed vacations. I answered phone calls on weekends because I believed that if you gave your employer your best, your employer would do the same for you. For many years, I was proud of that belief. Then life gave me a lesson I never forgot. One autumn afternoon, an old friend called to tell me about an opportunity at another company. The position paid more. The workload was lighter. Most importantly, it would allow me to spend more time with my wife. After weeks of thinking, I accepted the offer. The new company asked whether I could start in 2 months. I wanted to leave the right way. I believed giving plenty of notice was the honorable thing to do. So I walked into my manager's office and said, "I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'll be leaving in about 8 weeks. He smiled warmly. He shook my hand. He thanked me for my honesty. I walked out of his office feeling proud of myself. That feeling lasted less than a week. Suddenly, projects I had been leading were handed to someone else. Important meetings appeared on the calendar without my name attached. People stopped asking for my opinion. The younger employees were encouraged to shadow me, not to learn from me, but to replace me. No one said anything cruel. No one insulted me. They simply acted as though I had already disappeared. It was one of the loneliest periods of my professional life. Every morning I walked into the same building, sat at the same desk, worked with the same people. Yet somehow, I no longer belonged there. That experience taught me something I wish someone had taught me decades earlier. The moment people know you're leaving, their priorities begin to change. And that's not always because they're bad people. It's because organizations are designed to prepare for tomorrow. Once your future lies somewhere else, they naturally begin investing in the people who will remain. It isn't personal, it's practical. Understanding that truth saved me from making the same mistake again. Years later, when retirement finally approached, I handled things differently. I made sure every legal document was signed. Every financial detail was settled. Every benefit was secured. Every final bonus had arrived safely in my bank account. Only then did I announce my decision. This time, I left with gratitude instead of disappointment. The lesson wasn't about being secretive. It was about timing. There is a difference. Young people today often announce everything before it happens. They post online that they're interviewing for a new job. They tell coworkers they're thinking about leaving. They celebrate opportunities that haven't become reality yet. Sometimes those opportunities disappear. Sometimes someone else quietly steps into them. Sometimes employers begin treating them differently long before any decision has been finalized. I've watched careers damaged not by failure, but by premature announcements. Dreams need time to grow. Seeds don't become trees overnight. If you dig them up every morning to show everyone how they're growing, they'll never take root. Some plans deserve silence while they're still fragile. Protect your next chapter until you're already walking into it. There will be plenty of time to celebrate afterward. The people who truly care about you won't be offended that you waited. In fact, they'll probably admire your wisdom. One evening, after I officially retired, my grandson asked me if I missed working. I smiled. "I miss the people," I told him, "but I don't miss needing everyone to know my plans." He laughed. Then I gave him the same advice I'm giving you now. Don't announce tomorrow while you're still standing in today. Let your actions introduce your future. Words can always wait. When I was 79 years old, I experienced something that frightened my family far more than it frightened me. It began on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was trimming the roses in my backyard when I suddenly felt dizzy. The garden shears slipped from my hand, and I had to sit down before the world stopped spinning. My daughter found me a few minutes later. Within the hour, I was lying in a hospital bed with wires attached to my chest and machines quietly beeping around me. The doctors assured us that I had been fortunate. It wasn't a stroke. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a temporary condition caused by dehydration and exhaustion. I would recover. But during those long hours in the hospital, my daughter saw something different. She didn't see a father who would soon be healthy again. She saw a man growing older. She saw uncertainty. And like many loving children, she wanted to protect the person who had always protected her. One afternoon, she sat beside my bed holding a small folder. She smiled gently and squeezed my hand. "Dad," she said softly, "I think we should prepare for the future. Just in case." Inside the folder was a power of attorney. She explained that it would make things easier if I ever became seriously ill. She wasn't trying to take anything from me. I truly believe that. She loved me. I never doubted that. Without asking many questions, I signed it. After all, she was my daughter. Who else could I trust? A few months later, I had fully recovered. I was back to tending my garden, driving to the grocery store and meeting old friends for coffee. Life felt normal again. Then one afternoon, I noticed something unusual while reviewing my bank statements. Several accounts had been reorganized. Investments had been moved. Automatic payments had been changed. Nothing had been stolen. Every dollar was still mine. But no one had asked me. No one had even told me. When I asked my daughter about it, she looked genuinely surprised that I was upset. "I was only trying to make things easier for you," she said. "I thought I was helping." Maybe she was. Maybe she truly believed she was doing the right thing. But that wasn't the point. For the first time in my life, I felt like a guest in my own affairs. I realized something that afternoon that every older adult and every younger one should understand. Love and authority are not the same thing. Someone can love you deeply and still make decisions you would never have chosen for yourself. That doesn't make them evil. It makes them human. Good intentions do not replace clear boundaries. If you ever need someone to help manage your legal or financial affairs, make sure those responsibilities are clearly defined. Don't assume your expectations are obvious. Write them down. Talk about them. Ask difficult questions before there is an emergency. A limited power of attorney is often wiser than giving someone unlimited control. Know exactly what rights you're sharing. Know when those rights begin. Know when they end. Too many families are damaged not because of greed, but because of misunderstanding. I've seen brothers stop speaking over inheritances. I've seen sisters spend years in court arguing over promises that were never written down. I've watched lifelong friendships disappear because someone believed they were only helping. None of those tragedies began with hatred. Most began with assumptions. There is another lesson hidden here. Never discuss your will, your savings, or your estate with people who don't need to know. The more people know about what you plan to leave behind, the more complicated family relationships can become while you're still alive. I've met people who began treating their parents differently the moment they learned they might inherit a house. I've seen kindness become expectation, patience become calculation, affection become negotiation. Money has a strange way of changing conversations. Protect your privacy, not because you expect the worst from people, but because you hope to preserve the best in them. Today, my daughter and I have a wonderful relationship. We laugh together. We celebrate birthdays together. She still checks on me almost every day. I forgave her years ago. There was nothing to gain from holding on to resentment. But forgiveness doesn't erase the lesson. It simply allows you to carry it without bitterness. If I could leave you with one sentence from this chapter, it would be this: never confuse trust with surrender. You can trust someone completely without giving away every key to your life, because independence is not the opposite of love. Sometimes, it is one of the greatest expressions of self-respect. At 95 years old, I said goodbye to the woman who had shared my life for more than 60 years. Her name was Margaret. For 6 decades, she had been the rhythm of my days. She was the first person I spoke to every morning and the last voice I heard before closing my eyes each night. We raised children together. We survived financial hardships together. We buried our parents together. We celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, grandchildren, and quiet Sunday afternoons that never seemed important until they were gone. When she died, the silence inside our little house became something I had never experienced before. It wasn't peaceful. It was overwhelming. Every room reminded me of her. Her favorite chair sat by the window exactly where she had left it. Her reading glasses were still resting on the kitchen counter. Sometimes I caught myself turning toward the hallway, expecting to hear her footsteps. Grief has a strange way of convincing your heart that someone is still coming home. A few weeks after the funeral, my family gathered for Sunday lunch. Someone asked the simple question people always ask after a loss. "How are you doing?" I answered honestly. Perhaps too honestly. I told them I felt empty. I admitted that some mornings I struggled to find a reason to get out of bed. I confessed that loneliness frightened me more than death itself. I thought I was sharing my heart with people who loved me. Instead, I unintentionally gave them a reason to worry. Within days, relatives I rarely spoke to began calling. Some gently suggested that I should move into assisted living. Others wondered if I was becoming depressed. One cousin even asked my daughter whether I was still able to manage my own affairs. No one meant to hurt me. They were concerned. But concern without understanding can sometimes feel like judgment. I wasn't incapable. I wasn't confused. I wasn't giving up on life. I was grieving. Those are not the same thing. One of the greatest mistakes our society makes is assuming that sadness always needs to be fixed. Sometimes sadness simply needs to be witnessed. There is tremendous courage in asking for help. Please don't misunderstand me. If you're struggling with depression, anxiety, overwhelming grief, or emotional pain, reach out. Talk to someone. You do not have to carry those burdens alone. But choose your listeners wisely. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to hold another person's pain with compassion. Some people respond with advice before they listen. Others confuse vulnerability with weakness. And a few quietly begin treating you as though you've become fragile. Your heart deserves better than that. Find people who have earned your trust. A wise friend, a counselor, a therapist, a support group, someone who listens to understand, not simply to respond. It took me 96 years before I cried in front of another human being. That person was my therapist. When the tears finally came, I apologized. She smiled gently and said, "You don't have to apologize for being human." I have carried those words with me ever since. I wish someone had spoken them to me much earlier in life. There is strength in vulnerability, but vulnerability should be shared in safe hands. Not every room deserves your deepest story. Not every curious question deserves a complete answer. As I entered my 100th year, my great-grandson helped me set up online banking. When we finished, he looked at me with complete seriousness and said, "Great-grandpa, promise me you'll never give anyone your passwords." I laughed. Then I realized something. The world changes, but wisdom doesn't. Years ago, we protected the keys to our front doors. Today, we protect passwords. Yesterday, we guarded family letters. Today, we guard our digital identity. The tools have changed. The principle has not. Protect what gives others access to your life. That includes your money, your future plans, your legal rights, your reputation, your private struggles, and your peace of mind. None of this is about becoming secretive. It is about becoming intentional. After living for 100 years, I no longer believe that every truth needs an audience. Some victories are sweeter when celebrated quietly. Some dreams grow stronger when protected. Some pain heals best away from public opinion. And some chapters of your life belong only to you. If there is one sentence I hope stays with you long after this video ends, it is this: privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is self-respect. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is wisdom. The world will always encourage you to speak faster, share more, post everything, and explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to. A meaningful life isn't measured by how much of yourself you reveal. It is measured by how carefully you protect what truly matters. If you're fortunate enough to grow old, and I sincerely hope you are, you'll eventually discover what I did. The happiest people are rarely the loudest. The wisest people are rarely the ones arguing. And the strongest people are often the ones who know exactly when silence is the better answer. You still have time. Time to build. Time to forgive. Time to choose your words more carefully. Time to protect your peace before someone else decides what it is worth. And if my 100 years have taught me anything, it is this: the life you save by choosing silence may very well be your own. Thank you for spending these moments with me. Take care of your health, treasure the people who truly love you, and remember, not everything valuable needs to be shared. Sometimes, the most powerful words are the ones you never say.